Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Darrell Brooks. This is my first video in my new series, Bizarre Behaviors, where we examine odd, peculiar, or strange criminals. We're going to be looking at their body language and behaviors and talking about how strange criminals present differently and what their body language means. For those of you unfamiliar with Darrell Brooks, he drove his SUV, a Ford Escape, at high speeds into an annual Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. 6 people succumbed to injuries and 62 more were injured. Darrell Brooks has since been convicted and is currently serving 6 consecutive life sentences. Before we get started, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to remind you that this is not a psychological evaluation. These are just my observations on his behaviors and body language based on publicly available information. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. So we're going to go through a sequence of various clips of Darrell Brooks. We're going to start with his interrogation. His behavior is going to get more peculiar as we go, but I'm going to explain how people that engage in this kind of behavior are able to do it and what they get from it.
But there was a lot of people out, and it was, like I said, it was older couples walking down the street, it was younger people walking down the street, people like an event.
So you'll notice he has a lot of big body language. He moves his arms a lot. This is something that we oftentimes see when people are being open. And right now he's really just describing the atmosphere of the place. He's not saying whether he did or didn't do anything. Let's keep watching and see where it goes.
Something was going on? I don't know, but it kind of seemed like it was a lot, like it was something going on to where it was vibrant. Because there was a lot of people everywhere.
Walking up and down the street.
Everywhere. Just people. That's why I'm saying, like, if I got into a fight with her right there, it would be impossible for somebody to not be like, hey, this guy's fighting this chick or...
All right, so now when he's talking about his behavior being impossible, you see it's not as big anymore. He's got one hand down. He's using one hand to talk. He's not moving as much. And inherently, we tend to do this. When we start lying or when we start talking about things that aren't necessarily true, we tend to move a little bit less. Look at how his body shifts.
To not be like, hey, this guy's fighting this chick or whatever the case may be. We were sitting right there on the porch. We were just sitting there.
To find how long? Estimate.
Now look at where his hands are placed. They're underneath his arms. His body's getting tighter. He's not facing the police. He's looking upward. He's getting more and more uncomfortable.
You're telling the absolute whole truth and nothing but the truth, right?
Absolutely.
So help you God, right?
Absolutely.
Sound familiar? We've all heard that, right?
So you'll notice the body position as he continues to talk to police. His arms are placed around his waist. That's more of a defensive position. He's almost bracing himself. He's leaning forward because I think he's trying to connect with police, but he still feels very uncomfortable in this moment. So he is bracing himself.
And I just have concerns if I fact check that Darrell's not telling me the truth. You don't have a car.
Did you notice he nodded when he said that? Watch Darrell Brooks' head when he says that Darrell's not telling me the truth.
That Darrell's not telling me the truth. You don't have a car, so Marcus had to bring you out.
And oftentimes we accidentally nod to things that we agree with.
I know what you're saying. All I'm saying is this. We all been straight up with each other. You knew it was more to what you was asking me yesterday.
Didn't know
that would explain the FBI and all that, right?
So now he's asking questions. Now he basically is seeing them as equals. In other words, you've been giving me information or you have been withholding information from me. Darrell Brooks is saying this, and he's basically implying that they are on an even playing field. This is going to give us some idea of the mindset of Darrell Brooks because there is a lot of arrogance that comes with his behavior, but there's a lot more. We'll get to that when he actually gets to trial. Part of the reason I wanted to show you this is so that you could get an idea of some of his baseline behaviors when he's not playing attorney. Let's go to the next part, and then we'll talk about what we're going to observe. So now we're going to watch various clips from the trial in no particular order. Really doesn't matter if it's in order or not. It's more about his body language and his behavior. So just keep in mind, we're going to be jumping around some. But what we're going to be looking at is him acting as his own attorney. Let's just jump right into this clip right here where they're talking about his history as a sex offender.
When we I may take an early lunch. If that's in your cell, then you can go get it and bring it. But without that letter, I'm not allowing this line of questioning.
So you're going to see already the judge is speaking to him. He's looking up in the air. This is a way to take control. One of the strange things about him is he's trying to play attorney, and he's trying to act like what he thinks an attorney would act like, while at the same time very much still being Darrell Brooks and really having no training in this and acting strangely. But what he's doing right now by not looking at the judge is a way of saying, I'm in control. I don't have to look at you. And being in control, trying to make these power plays, is a constant game that Darrell Brooks was playing.
Do you have the letter with you in court?
I just said no. How
Okay.
many times I got to say the same thing on record?
You know, sometimes, sir, I don't hear.
And so he says, the way he phrases things, once again, he's playing attorney. He's playing a part. And that's one of the weird things about his body language here, is that it's constrained in some ways because he's trying to act like what he thinks an attorney would act like. Listen to the way he phrases this.
How many
Okay.
times I got to say the same thing on record?
You know, sometimes.
So as he's saying, how many times I got to say the same thing on record? This is him pretending to be an attorney. So sometimes when he says things, it sounds strange because it's a combination of the way he would naturally speak combined with him trying to be proper and trying to play the role.
Sir, I don't hear what you say because you interrupt me so much or you answer quietly. And I'm taking notes and I'm focused on probably a dozen things at the same time.
But if I say something under my breath, everybody seems to hear it. Everybody seems to hear
In
that.
a
Once again, he seems to think that he has as much control as everybody else. And when you have somebody that has no shame, they can act this way. Let's watch this part again.
But if I say something under my breath, everybody seems to hear it. Everybody seems to hear
In
that
a
just
quiet
fine.
courtroom,
And so he's talking down to the judge.
Everybody
yes, we
assumes,
can hear it very
and
clearly.
everybody assumes that it has to be disparaging.
To some other reason.
It's facts,
To
because
some
I
other
find
thing.
it hard to believe that.
And so once again, look at this performance. He crosses his hands in front of him. I think this is probably how he thinks an attorney should stand. I don't think that that's a natural position for him. And watch his facial expression right here.
It's
About
facts.
to some other reason.
It's facts,
To
because
some
I
other
find
thing.
it hard to believe.
So he's squinting. I find it hard to believe. Once again, this is acting, or at least, and it's just bad acting. That's part of the reason his behavior comes across as so strange.
That
I'm going to
all
let
of
the
a sudden
state.
nobody hears what I say.
I'm going to let the state
man,
make
stop.
a record of why they
Stop.
believe it's objectionable because I haven't let them do that. I've given you multiple opportunities to tell me why you
So
believe
I
it's.
didn't get these pictures from nobody else. Why was
The
somebody
record will
else
reflect you have 2 pictures that you believe were from this witness.
that I know is from
No, that you believe.
that I know?
All right, I'll ask.
And this is such an unusual circumstance that the judge is allowing him to represent himself and to just basically do whatever he wants. And this is going to embolden him to continue to behave this way.
Ask the state their position on all of this.
Pled guilty in March of 2007 to that felony offense and is a sex offender on the registry as a result. So if there's any causation that would lead to Erica Patterson being a bad mom, Mr. Brooks has a direct role in that causation.
And that's
Furthermore,
I object to that.
I'm not
because
done.
that's a lie.
Let him
Because at
finish.
the end of the day,
Let
if
him
we-
finish.
And so this is, you hear him saying that's a lie. Once again, when you have no shame, you'll have no problem lying. You'll have no problem objecting to things because you're allowed to get away with this behavior. Despite the fact the judge is telling him to stop, there's no real consequence for his outrageous behavior.
We're gonna open the
Mr.
door on that. No,
Brooks.
since he want to make a record and not be accurate, so let's be accurate all on the record. Since you think you know so much,
Once
so
again,
we can
Mr.
open the
Brooks
door
is
on.
being
We can
loud,
open the door on.
Now you'll notice his hands are behind his back. Oftentimes we do this when we're trying to hide something in a very real way. So as the attorney is making some points about his past that he doesn't like, that's probably why he put his hands behind his back. Let's watch his facial expressions as he talks about this.
How old she told me she was when we met.
interrupting.
We can ask that question
He is
too then.
over the
Did you
top
ask that?
animated
Did you
right
know
now.
that?
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the state.
And so once again, he's performing. What this is for him is that he's being allowed to perform. He's being allowed to be this character. I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of the actual Darrell Brooks, but at the same time, he's allowed to just say these outrageous things to little or no consequence.
Open the door on how old she told me she
disrespectful,
was when
interrupting.
we met. We can ask
He's-
that question
he is
too.
Right? And so this is his way of emphasizing, moving his head, moving his body. He wants to emphasize these points while also hiding his hands behind his back. So while he has secrets, he also wants to emphasize what he's saying. He only wants you to focus on his face. He doesn't want you to focus on anything else. He wants you to hear this. That's why he's moving so much.
Over the
Did you
top
ask that?
animated
Did you
right
know
now.
that?
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the state
No,
finish.
I'm not going to sit here and let somebody be inaccurate on the record and lie on the record.
Right. Under Illinois versus Allen, I've warned him repeatedly. He's being removed from the courtroom. And you know what? Let me dial that back. We're just going to take an early lunch, 1 hour. We'll be back.
And there's the anger, right? Like, look at the brow. This is anger that's almost to a performative level. He wants people to know he's angry. It's not just feeling angry. He's trying to show the judge, look how angry I am at you, staring her down, staring down the other attorney. Now we're looking at his reaction to a judge's order on jurisdiction.
If jurors do not comply with these rules, it could result in a new trial involving additional time and significant expense to the parties and the taxpayers. You are to decide the case solely on the evidence offered and received at trial. With that, you are excused for the evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning. All rise for the jurors, please.
So as I talked about, he likes to perform. This clearly is performative. If he really was just wanting to get rid of it, he could have just thrown it away, folded it up, crumpled it up, or whatever. He's tearing it up because he wants people to see how much control he has. That's what he's about. He's all about being in control. And you see, he heard a sound, he looked up, eyebrows big, watch this. Wants to make sure people are watching, right? Somebody's taking a picture of me, right? Like, people are seeing what I'm doing because I'm misbehaving. I'm acting out. And he just keeps on tearing it and tearing it, probably waiting to get admonished. Now we're going to watch a minute of Darrell Brooks questioning his ex-girlfriend. You see the eyebrows raised. I talk about often that is meant to bring attention to his face. So he wants people to see him right now. The whole idea of this is a performance. I really think he's absolutely loving the amount of power that he has right now.
Go ahead.
And I also think that he's looking through all of this. It's really just pretend. I don't think that he's really truly organizing anything. I think that this is just his way of feeling like he's playing attorney well.
Defense calls Erica Patterson.
See, threw his hands up, acted like he was upset about something. This is all a performance. Watch this again. As I said earlier, this man has no shame. And that's the problem, is that when you have no shame, it really gives you free rein to act out.
Just had it on table.
When you're ready.
And so here he is shuffling through all of these papers. His behavior is very childlike. Emotionally, he seems to be acting very adolescent, if not younger. So if you're wondering what he's doing or why he would do this, is once again, all of this control. He gets to control a whole courtroom. Everybody's got to wait for him. And everybody's got to think of how smart and how important he is that he's got paperwork that he's looking through. I mean, if you look at the way that he's doing, there's no rhyme or reason to it. He's just shuffling through papers.
Do you recall what you were doing that evening?
I was hanging out with my friend Corey at Frame Park. I had spoken to you, Mr. Darrell Brooks. You came out there at Frame Park and met me after Miss Corey.
And this body position, once again, this is the part of him that's acting. He's trying to play attorney. He's got his nose up in the air. It makes him feel important. He's got his back straight, his hands crossed. This is how, in his mind, attorneys look. So it's just him playing a role.
You're accusing, frankly, everyone of moving your papers.
Did I point the finger at anyone? Did I say anyone did anything?
Not directly, but indirectly you did,
So
sir.
how can you make the assumption that I'm saying?
Can I please?
So this is, once again, this is very childlike behavior. It's almost like somebody talking back to a parent. Let's keep watching and see where this goes.
The assumption that I'm saying.
Can I please make the record without you interrupting?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
See, the judge is saying, may I please do this? And he's saying, yes, you may. Once again, the sheer amount of ego and arrogance of Darrell Brooks is remarkable. Watch this part again.
Make the assumption that I'm saying.
Can I please make the record without you interrupting?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may. I apologize.
I appreciate You stated it implicitly.
I never asked the bailiffs, hey, did any one of you touch my table? I never said that to them. I just said, I can't find my paper, which is the truth.
And the way that you said it, like,
I didn't point anyone out, though.
And
so oftentimes we see when people are lying, they feel uncomfortable. Like when you saw Darrell Brooks in the interrogation room, he was looking uncomfortable when he was lying. Now he has power. He has legitimate power in this court. Clearly, I mean, he has a judge apologizing to him. He has the judge giving him free reign to do a lot of what he wants, even though she sets some limits with him. So when he's implying somebody stole his papers or whatever ridiculousness it is, he's going to feel totally comfortable with that. So observing lies and deception in this situation is going to be very hard because he feels like he has so much power, and he kind of does, actually.
It's kind of interesting. I don't have a document that was just on my table. That is what you said.
That's what I said.
And so she's treating his arguments as though they are legitimate. So she's trying to use logic to make counterpoints to what he's talking about, which is impossible with somebody who doesn't operate logically. So as she's doing this, she's wasting her time trying to say, you said this, here's what I heard, blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff matters because he's not functioning logically.
I did not point the finger at anyone.
So
I can
you
see
have
if
the
I
letter.
came in, Your Honor, with
You've
all
been
respect,
given.
I can see if I came in and said, hey, one of you moved something off my table, or if I would have directed that towards the state, or if I would have directed that towards the clerks or something like that, then it would be
That I'm making a rule. You're doing it again.
I mean, because it has no validity.
So as he's making this arrogant statement, because you have no validity, because what you're saying has no validity, he's trying to keep himself busy because he thinks important people keep themselves busy. And so that's why he's messing around with papers. Once again, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just how it makes him feel powerful because this is how he perceives powerful people. Watch this part again.
That I'm making a rule. You're doing it again.
I mean, because it has no validity.
Now we're going to watch the judge and Darrell Brooks arguing a little bit. Not that there's anything rare about that. It happened quite a lot during the trial.
I understand.
I request a legal or factual basis for your ruling, a written judicial finding of fact and conclusion of law for your ruling, and if not that, an interlocutory.
So as you can see, he's reading something. He's just trying to find ways to be as difficult as possible. So when you want to understand his body language, you really got to look at two things. One is that he's acting. Two is that he has no shame. If you can combine those two things, then you can have somebody who acts and behaves this way.
And if you interrupt me one more time, you're going to go do it from the other courtroom.
And so
you're
holding
being
me in contempt?
all right. He can go to the other courtroom and we will address these issues because
holding
you
me in
are
contempt?
not being respectful. You are disruptive. You are
And as you can see, the judge is standing up, and part of that is a sign of dominance. If you will not listen to me, I'm going to be bigger than you.
interrupting. I will give you one more opportunity. Don't interrupt me again. Don't roll your eyes at me. Don't sigh at me.
And see, he's pursing his lips together, trying to show his disapproval. He oftentimes makes faces to show his disapproval, but he doesn't have a lot of micro expressions because most of what we're seeing is somebody who feels important, who's being arrogant, who is being shameless. So we'll go ahead and stop here. And to summarize what we've seen so far, we're seeing somebody who doesn't feel embarrassment by the way that he acts. He doesn't seem to have any shame and doesn't seem to have that sort of interpersonal need to please others at least a little bit or to color within the lines a little bit. He just does as he pleases, and he wants control over that courtroom, and he's getting it oftentimes. And so that's the problem is that he's ultimately maybe not getting what he wants in the sense that he ultimately is found guilty, but he's given control. He's given a platform. He's allowed to act and say close to whatever he wants and get away with it. Hopefully you learned a little bit about body language from this. It's a little bit different. When we look at the people that are a little bit stranger or more peculiar, the body language is going to be different. What we focus on will be a little bit different. I plan to continue doing more of these bizarre behavior cases. If you have any ideas or any cases you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. Before we finish up, though, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.